Amour, and today's episode is sponsored by Education Innovations, where we help guide families through education decisions from college and graduate admissions to life beyond. And the purpose of our podcast is to help expose people to what different colleges and careers are like. And on today's episode, we'll be learning about Javette's journey. And her episode is titled Tech, Tenacity, and Triumph: Javette's Real World College to VP Journey. So without further ado, let's bring on Javette so we can start this conversation.
Hi,
Hey, Javette, how are
Amour.
you?
I'm good. Thank you. Happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. We're excited about you sharing your journey because there's so many people who think they know what the field of technology is like. And so you are already a VP of technology. Can you tell us what what is your role? Like what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vice President of Technology, I oversee a client portfolio and essentially all of their products and services that the bank hosts for them and facilitates, money transfer for them. So my job primarily is to overlook the portfolio, the relationship with the client, and make sure that we're delivering upon all our, contractual responsibilities and interfacing with folks from enterprise architecture, legal, marketing, customer operations. So I act as that synergy in between all these different, stakeholders and partners.
So it sounds like if you have to make sure all of these different things are going well, that you have to have certain skills. Now, your journey is different than most folks. I won't say than most folks.
Oh, it
You know,
is.
a lot of yeah. So tell us about that because a lot of kids think that
Yeah,
they have to go through a 4 year and that's how you do. Tell us about your
it's
journey. How
very
did you get
different.
to where you are?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Definitely, like you said, tenacity, and certainly with a lot of God's grace and favor. I'll say that at the top. So yeah, I was a teen mom, my first child at 19 years old, so my freshman year of college, and
Mhm.
that required me to no longer live on campus and to become, a student worker. So I worked full time and went to school part time with the support of, my village, the university. I always say the financial aid ladies at the office were
Yes.
instrumental in pointing me in the direct direction for support to help me finish my degree. And it wasn't without a couple of start and stops. Let's be clear. I fumbled the ball
Mhm.
a couple of times. So, yeah, I wasn't a traditional student in any way, shape, or form. Ultimately, graduating with my bachelor's when I was 24 years old,
That's
which at the
that's
time
really
felt like,
good.
yeah, well, at the time felt like a failure because remember, I'm juggling parenthood, working full time, bills and responsibilities, car insurance, all
Mhm.
the things that my friends did not have to worry about at that time, right? They were just focused on school and graduating and getting new cars coming out of school, and that just was not my lived experience. So at the time, though motivated, I certainly did not
Mhm.
feel accomplished, if you will, at that stage of life.
So when you say your village, so do you feel like those relationships that you built with the financial aid office, did those ladies encourage you? And then how did you keep pushing forward when you said like, your friends, sometimes when you're younger, you tend to compare yourself like, I should be further, or my friends are doing that. How did you keep pushing forward through that?
Yeah, I'll definitely say yes. There were many a days I was sitting in, the office waiting to speak to Miss Such and Such or Mr. Such and Such for
Mhm.
any assistance because I was about to be kicked out of a class for failure to pay,
Mhm.
or I couldn't pay for my books.
Mhm.
Name it, I had that problem. But I think what they saw was I could have easily have been, given up and just rested in the Because I had good jobs. Let's be clear. I
Mhm,
always had a good job. Getting jobs
mhm,
was never a problem for me. I had, very good jobs, so I could have just stayed employed.
mhm.
But I knew I really wanted my degree, and I knew, as I always tell my mentees, I didn't want my
Mhm.
boss's job. I wanted my boss's job. And so, as long
I
as
know
I
that's
kept
right.
my eyes on that prize, I realized that I had to, keep going, if you will. So yeah, they offered me opportunities to do work study. So I came and did resume
Mhm.
reviews and interviewing skills
Ooh.
with students
Mhm,
during the day, and that afforded me, money to do that type of work. I also got,
mhm,
scholarships for being a technology major. They gave me acceptance into a program that covered daycare, which was really evening
mm.
for my son when I took classes at night, which I
Oh,
didn't even know
nice.
even existed. But they had a room that was staffed with, the YMCA, and we could
Mhm.
bring our kids in there if we needed to help them with their homework or what have you, while we were in class from like 6 to 8:30, 9 o'clock some nights.
That's amazing. And so you were saying, so did you always know that you wanted to go into technology? Your major was technology when you
I
were
really
going through?
originally wanted to be a journalist,
Oh,
and so
wow.
I
So
really wanted to,
so how did that
go.
change?
Yeah, I realized that the internships that were offered for journalism majors working on like what they call the morning packet, that
Mhm.
group came in from 11 to 7 a.m. So where's my
Oh, it
kicking
doesn't
and
work.
during that time
Yes, yes.
frame?
Uh-huh.
And I'm in
Mhm,
Atlanta at this juncture. No family. I'm
mhm,
from Florida originally, so I have no family here in Atlanta. There
mhm,
is no one that can, take care of my son while, I'm doing that type of work. So I had to pivot. And so, like I said, I'm still working
mhm,
full time at a great job as a project analyst, and really great
mhm,
leadership at that company that allowed me the flexibility with school. And
mhm.
they had a career event after school, and there was a woman on the panel who was a project manager. And
Ooh.
there was a pamphlet about, hey, if you've taken these courses, these are transferable. Here's this new program we're offering called, technology management. You could pivot to that and do a minor in project
Mhm,
management if you're interested. And I was like, oh my God, collaboration. I'm still
mhm,
technology adjacent. I don't have to code. I know I'm resourceful, right? I know how to
mhm,
organize and motivate people. This feels like a good thing for me. And then I researched the salary for those roles
mhm.
at the time and the
Yes.
certification path. I'm like, I can do this. And so, 2.5 years later, I finally finished the program. And then shortly after that, was able to sit for my PMP, which made all the difference from a
Can you tell
salary.
us what the PMP is for
Yeah,
people who don't
it's
know?
a project management professional license that's offered from the Project Management Institute. So, kind of the overarching pillar of all things project management. They offered a
Mhm,
PMP certification, so the professional, right, of all things project management. And
mhm,
I studied and did a boot camp on the weekends to get prepared for it. And again, I
mhm.
think this is where the tenacity and resilience comes in. I failed it the first time.
Mm.
I did not pass it. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And it
Mhm,
requires you to take, I think, a 2 week break before you could sit for it again. And
mhm,
at this point, I'm two children, and I have two boys at this point. I'm married, so I do have a co-parent in play
mhm.
helping balance it all. But I had to really double down, and I was so again. This is where that kind of shame comes in. It's like, God, can I not get anything right? Like, geez, girl,
Oh, no. Yeah.
and no, I'm just, I'm really hard on myself. I set this really high bar,
Mhm,
and then when I don't meet it, rather than give up and rather than bury
mhm.
myself, wallow, like I give myself a minute to cry, and then I suck it
That's
up,
right.
and then we push forward.
Yep.
And so I passed
That's
it.
right.
That second
Mhm,
time I took it, and then it allowed me to position myself for better paying, higher responsibility, higher visibility roles. And so I'll say shortly after that, I finally broke into the six-figure bracket, and I was,
Mhm.
extremely proud of myself. And just amongst my cohort of, my peers, my friends, I was the first to break that barrier, if you will, amongst all of them. So at this
Yes.
point, I'm feeling good,
Mhm.
even though I had a
Yes.
slower, non-traditional start than my friends from
Mhm.
a career perspective. I'm feeling really good about, where I'm at.
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, I love how you push through even though you didn't pass that, one test. I'm going to say you're not the only one who didn't pass the test. Back in the day when I was trying to be a teacher in my first part of my career, I was I think I was trying to be a teacher in both for California and Georgia, and I didn't pass the test for Georgia by 5 points. And so
Oh,
I had to retake that test, too. So I think it's important for people to know that you don't just always pass everything. There will be failures, but the true test is, you can feel sad, but are you gonna get back up? Are you gonna
exactly.
get back up? You can cry, but
Exactly.
are you gonna get back up?
Yeah, and what
So
did you learn? Right? I think that was
yes.
something, as I always tell my kids, I say, well, and this is me big upping, my generation. It's like we didn't have a choice. Like if we skin our knees, our
Yes.
parents weren't there to like, it's gonna be okay. I was like, put some water on that and like what go
Yeah.
back outside. So it wasn't
Just keep it
we
moving.
weren't the Band-Aid kids. We definitely were the spit shine kids. Like, you'll be fine, right? You're not bleeding out. You're good.
Yeah.
So I never subscribed to wallowing in, a mess, frankly, that, I created, right? I could have studied harder. I could have, um, been more diligent with managing my time. So there's always lessons to be learned out of mistakes and failures or not hitting the mark, right? And I think that is something
Mhm.
that's been important, or instrumental rather, in my career and education. Is I fail, what did I learn?
Yep.
Okay, now let's do it over
Mhm.
again, better.
And I love that. Yep.
Wiser.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what was your path like? What were the schools that you went to, or what were the degrees that you had to get? I know that MP is like a certification, but what were the schools that you had to go to and that you went
Yeah.
through?
Yeah, again, non-traditional. So in Florida, the University of Central Florida.
Okay.
And then I moved to Atlanta and did evening programs at Georgia State University and got my associate's degree first, and
Okay.
then decided
Mhm.
to continue on. And because of the inability to have a full-time job and go to school at that time at Georgia State, they didn't offer as many classes
Mhm.
where we lived at, in
Oh.
Norcross. So I pivoted to um, DeVry University, who had a partnership
Mhm.
with Georgia Perimeter College. So, you could do the
Okay.
remote classes at the time, and I'm going to date
Mhm.
myself here, with VHS tapes. So you go
Mhm.
get the tape,
Oh, wow.
watch the material at home, right? And then, go online, take the test, go into the university, sit down and take the proctor, test on site. So it
Mhm.
was a lot of blended learning amongst
Mhm.
amongst all of the classes that I took to finish. And so I think where it gets unique
I
is I
feel like they
talk
were the
about,
first university to have a
huh?
blended learning, though.
Oh
I feel
God,
like DeVry
yeah.
was the first.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I
absolutely. And I
think
have
UNC
my
had
one
a
of
good
my
job
best
too.
friends, Carrie, to thank for introducing me to DeVry, and the fact that, it wasn't a lot of the, surrounds general study classes. It really got you straight to coding and, right, engineering and infrastructure and operations, all the things, the real world knowledge that you would actually need, right, when going out and getting a
Mhm.
job and being able to, literally say, I can hit the ground running, right? You don't have to teach me these things. I already know it. So that was a huge plus. The complexity at this point of my career, as I'm trying to get my bachelor's degree, is the classes I needed towards the end were only offered during the day. And so I
Oh.
saved up my tax
Mhm.
return, my student loan
Mhm.
refund, paid up
Mhm.
my car note and my insurance, all the things. And a friend of mine
Mhm.
offered to let my son and I stay with them while I finished that last semester of school so I wouldn't have to worry about rent. So I put all my stuff in storage.
Nice.
And, life
Mhm.
happens. That living situation did not bode very well. And so, we were homeless at that point. And
Mm.
so I had to figure out, like, what are we going to do? So I ended up living with, this person for a little bit of time and then this person for a little bit of time before,
Mhm.
having a kid around got really old, or I just didn't feel like it was the right environment for him to
Mhm.
be around.
Right.
So with that being said, we ended up going to I don't know, it was like an efficiency, a sleep and stay where literally the kitchen,
Yep.
the bedroom, the living room is kind of
Mhm.
all one connected space. So I'm
Yep.
hauling my giant computer
Mhm.
monitor and the CPU and the keyboard and all the things
Yep.
from all these different locations so I could stay in my class. Like literally, I'm hauling a computer with me. There were no laptops. At least I
Mm.
didn't have one back then.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so yeah, I had it set up in the kitchenette area. And at this point, I'm using government benefits. I have food stamps. So I'm
Mhm.
buying our food using those
Mhm.
programs and stocking up the refrigerator with little 99 cent, Michelina meals. I still remember it, right? Capri
Mhm.
Suns, all the things,
Doing what you
bananas.
can.
So we would
Mhm.
have food there. Some nights we would run out and I would just let him eat first and then I would eat the remainder.
Mhm.
That was our existence for, gosh, like maybe January all the way through to like May when he finished school. And he was able to go and live with
Mm.
my mom for a bit over the summer. But that was pretty much how it went down for us until it was time for me to graduate and decide whether or not I was going to stay here in Atlanta. But God makes a way, and
Yes.
was able to graduate with my bachelor's degree, and then ultimately decided to stay here in Atlanta versus going back to Florida. I was able to get a job, so yeah, it was
Okay.
not easy, but we made it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you stayed in Atlanta because I met you. So, and that's really good. So then, did you so you were working full time and you're doing project management. Did you have to learn how to code like you were saying, or you were always in the project management field and
Yeah,
technology?
great question. I knew
Mhm.
coding languages. Obviously, there were projects
Mhm.
in school that we had to do coding, right, and scripts and what have you.
Mhm.
I chose to stay the project management path. And so, as I tell folks, I was always and have always been tech adjacent. Um,
That's right.
so, at the center of it, familiar with it, apprised, educated, all the things,
Mhm.
but I never
Mhm.
coded, right? I worked along
Mhm.
people that did the coding. I oversaw teams that did, right, the coding and design,
Mhm.
etc., implementations. But um, the project management piece was really understanding foundationally how you start a project. How do we build something
Mhm.
with all these collective
Mhm.
opinions, stakeholders,
Mhm.
constrained
Mhm.
budget, oftentimes very limited resources, and a really small, time window to get this high
Mhm.
impactful, release delivered to market. So that became a skill that, ironically, I inherently knew how to do. So being a single mom, you've got to be resourceful. So I'm used to
Yes.
working with a little. I am
Mhm.
used to influencing people to help me
Mhm.
get something
Mhm.
done. I'm
Mhm.
also accustomed to learning very quickly how things work and,
Mhm.
maneuvering going forward with that knowledge behind me. And then
Mhm.
earning trust, right? So teams have to trust you,
Right.
leadership has to learn to trust you. And so doing what you say you're going to do means everything. Your word is everything. So people are giving me scholarships and offering
Mhm.
me, evening daycare. I better be in the class and I certainly better be passing
That's
the
right.
classes, right,
Mhm.
to have this type of support extended to me. So all of those basic, foundational principles of how to manage
Mhm.
yourself, how to, earn trust, right, and be
Mhm.
dedicated in whatever field you're in. I learned very
Mhm.
early as a single
Mhm.
mom, honestly, and it really
Mhm.
just comes natural to me and what I do.
Right. I love how you, translated those skills, and I've never heard anyone say it like that, and because I'm gonna say I was also in, project management in the tech thing, and I, taught
Mhm,
myself how to code. So the way that you said these skills translate and just put it out there, like,
mhm.
it makes it clear, like,
Thank
people
you.
don't think that we know how, and we do.
Oh, we
Um,
absolutely do. Yeah,
so
listen, and if you don't know, as I tell people, this is like pre-chat GPT. There was never a time when I
Mhm,
was in a meeting and someone yelled out an acronym or mentioned some new tech or some new something that I didn't quickly
mhm,
write down what that thing was or immediately Google search whatever it is
mhm,
they just said so I can try and keep up in the conversation. But when that would fail in real
mhm,
time, I wouldn't be afraid to raise my hand and ask the question. And again, what I learned was the same question I had, everybody else had, except
that's
nobody else
right.
was brave enough to ask the question.
Mm,
Like, hey, what does this acronym mean again? I'm not understanding, right? Or do you mean this? Right. So
mhm,
again, you just learn to ask the questions, do the research,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
But certainly, ask questions and not pretend like you know something when you
So, what would you suggest to people that are trying to go into the tech field to do?
don't. It depends on, I would say, what they're passionate about. I think there has to be some acknowledgement of what's hot in the industry, and everybody wants to be a part of cybersecurity, and rightfully so. Because
Mhm.
as my husband, who's a global CISO, says, like, crime never sleeps. So they're always working.
Mhm.
To come up with new ways to grab people's data. But that being said, what I encourage folks to do is think about, one, like, what are you really good at? What are you passionate about? Do you like interacting with new people and coming up with great ideas or building upon people's idea? Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Do you like large crowds? Like, all of these things matter because there are tech adjacent roles that are in finance. Like, literally, I work
Mhm.
with finance people, marketing folks, customer service
Mhm.
ops folks, right? People that work behind the scenes from an infrastructure perspective, product people who help, define and design products and services. Like, there's so much in the technology space that there's literally room for everybody. HR,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Like,
Mhm.
literally everybody. So when people say they want to work in tech, tell me more about what you've done so far with your career. Can we grab and build upon that? Or do you want to
Mhm.
do a complete, career switch or pivot? You totally can pivot.
Mhm.
I've talked to people who
Mhm.
were educators and I say, hey, there's
Mhm.
instructional learning in technology.
Mm.
There are people who literally
That's
put
right.
educational educational
Mhm.
material for processes and tech and
That's right.
implementation and onboarding. That is a space
Mhm.
where an educator could pivot to. That's another space where
Mm.
an educator could pivot to. So there's so much, but it's really just about, really digging deep and figuring out what you like and what you want to do, right? Versus trying to go with what's hot, because there's always going to be a new something, like, always. Right now we're in the age of AI, and so everything is all AI. But just think about, again, the surrounds of the core functionality of what technology is, and then figure out, your space and your niche in that, matrix, if you will.
So if a kid is in a 4-year college, would you suggest a liberal arts degree or just go straight
It
for
it depends on, like, are they, um do they independently study well? Like, you literally don't need
mm,
to, go to college to work in
mhm.
tech. You could go and take,
Okay.
online coding programs and certification
Mm,
programs for free, right? And teach
mm,
yourself these things. But going to
mhm,
college allows you to learn communication skills. It allows you to learn how to do research and build a case study, advocate for your work, right? How to work
mm,
in
mhm,
teams, how to follow leadership. Like, I didn't always
mhm.
agree with the perspective of my professors. However,
Right.
I had to learn how to follow because I don't always
Mhm.
agree with the perspective of my leaders, but I have to
Right.
learn to follow. I can still advocate
Mhm,
for my opinion, but there's still
mhm,
something to be learned in how to navigate the world as an adult that you
mhm,
can and can only get in college. Like I could have
Mm.
worked and then kind of made my way through the world. But I learned so much by going to college, by working with people in team projects and professors and the administration, right?
Mhm.
All of these life experiences I never would have gotten if I didn't go to college, like point blank.
Mm. So college is it a scam?
Yes. I would say yes. You can learn how to code, and then you can
Mhm.
learn how to be a professional who
Mhm.
codes. Right?
Mm.
And I think learning to be a professional who codes is a more longevity, sustainable route to go. Yes, you can get a certification online and work in
Mhm.
tech, but
Mhm.
are you going to be allowed the ability to maneuver through and lead teams of tech folks, lead teams of engineers, lead an entire global organization of engineers? You are not going to be able to learn that through a certification program. You can learn that, will learn that in college. And if you don't go to
Right.
college, you may, if afforded the opportunity with the right mentors and grace and space to learn while on the job, yes, you could. The likelihood, honestly, of a woman or a person of color being afforded that grace and space to learn and move through leadership without a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree is very small.
Mhm.
So come in
So
with all the things so that there's never a second guess on if you're qualified or not.
so you're also part of, different organizations in the Atlanta, area in tech. Can you tell us
Yes.
more about
Yeah.
those and
Yeah.
what you
Absolutely.
do? And then we'll
Absolutely.
wrap up. Mhm.
Absolutely. Women in technology, first and foremost, is my home from a community perspective and nonprofit. We do so much for girls to women, basically, right? From
Mhm.
middle school, high school, college, and now, right? They've brought back the executive leadership or mid career experience for professionals. So that is my home. I was so lucky to have won the 2025 WIT Award for Woman to Watch. So, that
Mhm.
was a huge honor. It
Congratulations.
still is very much so. I sit
Mhm.
on the board for the Fulton County Boys and Girls Club here in Atlanta. Also a part of the American Heart Association. Health is wealth. So I sit on their ELT to help champion the programs. There and then the Atlanta Women's Foundation. There's so many, but again, I think more importantly is the necessity to give back to Atlanta, the community that gave so much to me, because I literally would not be here without Atlanta, like without
Mm.
them. So it is my duty and my privilege to do what I can for whoever I can, to make sure that there's more of me and better in the future.
So, as we wrap up, what is your advice for anyone out there, who is maybe having a hard time, who may think they can't do it, who yes, and then also how can people follow you?
Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. I think the
It's
the
okay.
biggest thing I would say to someone is don't get discouraged. Like there have been so many times where I got so discouraged and felt like, God, this is so hard, and I could just do this one thing, but I knew I wanted more for myself, and I knew I wanted more for my children. Um, and I think it's just a matter of really accepting that, hey, I can only change me. I can't change other people's hearts, right? And maybe I can change their minds, but at the end of the day, what is for me is for me. And this
Mm,
no may be, a divine intervention no, because my yes it was going to be a bigger yes later on if I had just been patient. And again, that's a lesson that I had to learn, is that no is sometimes a redirection, you know and it always worked out in my favor. If I had nothing but good intentions, it always worked out in my favor. And so I would just tell folks to never, quite literally, never give up. Keep doing the work, and connecting with other people has always been my saving grace. My network is very strong. I give back to it, and it gives back to me, tenfold. So networking and getting out into the world is really, really important. And stay curious, right? Like, I went back and got my master's degree. Now pursuing a law degree at Amory, and
Yes.
really just stay curious and never get, too comfortable. Always stay
Mm.
learning, always stay expanding your mind. The world changes so quickly, and I never want to be, a step behind.
And how can they follow you and connect with you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I am Jaja ZsaVette Eze, and then on LinkedIn, ZsaVette Eze.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we'll see you next time on the next episode. Bye.
thank you.